And it says we're live.
I don't believe it.
Oh my god! This week on the Skeptics, music is really loud. And Bob has opinions. Steve is going for gold. Barb hates memes. Tim is filling out checklists. My name is Brian Gregory. I'm your host. And I think the internet deities, whatever the heck they may be, that this is finally just working. Oh my god. So did you catch the other opening? Because we did one already. That was crazy.
It was pretty
live?
good. We
Are we
don't
live?
know. Let's pretend it is.
It was the bomb, man. It was the best opening we've ever done in the history of the show. We had
Nailed it.
jokes, we had comedy, we had acting. There was a whole band that came in behind me. It was things falling, balloons, like from the
And I was here the whole time.
It was awesome. Hi.
Yeah, you were definitely there the whole time, Var.
Yeah, you were there the whole time.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is for Skeptics. Thanks for tuning in and being patient with us as we figure out this.
Oh, that was nightmarish.
That's going to be happening. Apparently, if you've seen posted on our blog, I posted a link to the same article. Google Plus is going away eventually. Google Hangouts on Air is going away. Google Hangout on Air is what we're using right now to do the show. It's supposed to be taken over by Google Live. Or YouTube Live, which has similar functionality, a lot of the same functionality. I originally started the show using that technology because I wanted to learn how to do it. And
it didn't work.
It didn't seem to work very well. A lot of the usual things broke and fell apart, and it was crazy, and that's why we're back on this. And if you're tuning in, thank you. Let me introduce the other people, the people that are in the little windows. Okay, first off, we have our regular panelists, Bob Blaskowitz, CSI's conspiracy guy, web columnist, blogger for Skeptical Humanities, and Skepticality contributor. We have E. Siebert, editor and blogger at Skeptical Humanities, and contributor to Skepticality Insight at skeptic.com. Also, Barbara Drescher, former psychology instructor, blogger at ICBS Everywhere, and contributor to skeptical projects such as Insight at skeptic.com and The Odds Must Be Crazy. And also Tim Farley, blogger at SkepTools and Insight at skeptic.com, Skepticality contributor and creator to What's the Harm, and former JREF fellow. Y'all are awesome. Give yourself a hand.
You're not so bad yourself, Brian.
I try to make stuff work, and I'm not doing very good tonight.
Hey, well, yeah. Tonight.
So,
your lawnmower, you can't make that work either.
That's true. My lawnmower.
Otherwise, you're doing great.
Yes. For someone who works on technology for a living, technology doesn't like me very much.
Well, you know what? If you do it at work, you don't want to do it at home, so,
That's not why.
That's the excuse my husband gives.
So let's dive right into our usual stuff. If you're watching the show, I think the Q&A app is still around, but I think it's going to be gone soon. We're not. So I'm just going to stop using that because I hate the thing anyway. If you comment on YouTube, and I think there's actually is there a chat thing still? There was a chat window.
No, not since the restart.
Okay, so if you comment on the YouTube channel or if you hashtag Virtual Skeptics like Nathan Miller just did with Musical Encore, thank you. I guess at least somebody saw the encore. Well, that's good. Just reading Tim's notes about the soft opening that actually did get posted. You can comment on that if you want to, but we'll try to pay attention.
Or you can give us money and we'll give you access to bonus content. That's not going to happen.
Or you can ignore Bob and say something snarky on Twitter, because I hope that's what you do.
Yeah.
Okay, moving right along. We have got a trivia question this week. Tim, would you like to throw that out to the intertubes?
Yes. This is the 40th anniversary of CSI, formerly known as SciComp, and also of their magazine Skeptical Inquirer. And there's a big 40th anniversary issue, which I don't have within arm's reach. But my trivia question is about Skeptical Inquirer. The editor of Skeptical Inquirer for 39 of its 40 years has been Kendrick Frazier.
Oh, yeah.
Can you identify what well-known science-related magazine he was the editor of prior to being the editor of Skeptical Inquirer?
That's a good question.
And we'll give you a minute. No, actually, just if you got an answer for that, that's going to go out on the Twitter here in a second. But if you got an answer for that, you can answer on the means that I mentioned, and we will give you credit. Also, I've got a movie playing behind me. If you can figure out what that is and let me know, I will give you credit for that as well. Otherwise, just say something funny, man. That's all I hope for. And right now, now just Bob. What? No. Yeah, just Bob. Bob's next, actually. Bob is going to talk about stuff and things and his opinions, which I'm not. I'm actually a little scared, actually.
Well, okay. It's true.
I'm frightened of his slides.
Yeah, well, this is gonna be fun. I'm gonna have fun. Okay, so
Wait, for any Bob segment, we should have a disclaimer saying that it does not. The opinions represent only his own opinions, do not represent the opinions of virtual.
Yeah, so that we don't get sued.
Well, that hit too close to home.
Are we quite ready? All right, so this has been maybe. I'm just too invested in the campaign to see it otherwise. But it seems to me that this is a conspiracy theory-full election, as conspiracy theory-full as I've ever seen.
Hey, Bob, can I interrupt you for a second and ask what is written on your lower third? Because I can't read it.
I'm a lizard person.
Okay. That's
okay.
Good. Got it.
Well, everybody
That
knew
yeah,
Makes
I
sense.
should have known that.
We've seen your eyes change.
Yeah.
That's true.
So, okay, so as best I remember, the Republican candidate for president, if you could bring up the first image.
Do I have to?
Yeah, you have to. Just pay attention to Oompa Loompa.
No! Oh, God. Kissy face Trump.
Yep. Yeah.
Haunts my dreams.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
But
Thanks
not
for
really.
giving our entire audience nightmares.
Twitter fame. This is the first I heard of him on Twitter, anyways, when he was putting out the conspiracy theory that Obama was not an American, that he was born in Kenya. And since then, he has thrown out every conceivable permutation of conspiracy theory. And it's really quite amazing. Now, Donald Trump is not exactly what you would call a policy wonk or a thinker, or given the labored phonetic delivery of his policy speech, much of a reader. He has, however, if you could bring up the next image, developed a knack for spinning yarns from the spinnerets positioned in his backside.
Which this is my favorite picture from your
Isn't that hilarious?
Yes, it's awesome.
It's amazing that what you can find on the internet, isn't it?
Spider.
I'm just really glad
Spider.
I can keep you in the big picture.
And not
I'm sorry for.
That is unleaded nice
Trump. Spider Trump.
Yeah. So, blah 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 spinnerets joke. Okay, I had originally planned to do a story similar to this one last week, but there's so much stuff that comes out in a single week from that campaign, and with the new substitution, their campaign manager is now the Breitbart head. It's going to get even worse. No more Mr. Nice Guy, apparently. So one of the humdingiest humdingers I've heard in a while was Trump's oft-repeated statement that, if you could bring this up, next image.
Yep.
That President Obama founded ISIS and that Hillary Clinton is basically a co-founder. And when people said, that's crazy. When people on his team said, "Oh, he's not speaking literally," he dug in and said, "The hell I'm not." And then on Twitter, he said, "Well, I was just being sarcastic." When someone says that the president founded ISIS, the appropriate response, as far as I can tell, is to give a rabies test. but in and of itself, this conspiracy theory was not going to gain a lot of traction in the States. He offers no evidence or mechanism. So I mean, it just seemed like he was just slamming the president. However, if today in the New York Times a opinion piece appeared that it was by Michael Wahid Hanna and Daniel Bonheim, and the problem with Trump's mind spatterings is that there are people in the Middle East who take this type of conspiracy theory seriously, and that it's fertile ground for that type of thing. So, oppressive regimes in the Middle East often outsource responsibility for their, population's troubles to foreign actors. Given that we have had some shady dealings in the Middle East in the past, and on top of that, people are going to take it seriously. The head of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, said, quote, "This is an American presidential candidate. This was spoken on behalf of the Republican Party. He has data and documents." So it's going to make our job of relating to people in the Middle East that much harder. Mm-hmm. All right, so that's a problem.
I do love the on-screen fact check right there.
I know. Wasn't
CNN
that
started
wonderful?
to do.
He's not.
They've been getting a lot of attention in the journalism circles about CNN, and MSNBC has been doing it a bit too since CNN started doing it. They've done it a number of times where they directly contradict what Trump is saying right in the chyron.
And that's how it should be,
It actually needs to be. It needs to be because the false information sticks.
Yep.
It's true. It's true, and it's just he's taken it to such another level, and maybe I'm biased, but to a whole nother level that there's an alternate reality that's spewing out of his mouth, and that's all that they're paying attention. I don't know if I've seen much coverage of Clinton really at all in comparison to Trump. So anyway.
Clearly she needs to make more wild statements.
No, I just think we got to let Trump destroy himself.
It's batshit crazy stuff. It's a terrible time to be an American. I'm embarrassed. And
it is embarrassing.
It's embarrassing
that we've got a guy like this at this level.
Wasn't there an article
the impression that people must have outside of this country of who we are?
But some of the people outside this country voted for Brexit, so
yeah.
Yeah, and he's actually part of a far-right resurgence all around the world.
Yeah.
You look at the Golden Dawn, you look at the elections in Austria. France is getting a little Nazi right now, and Brexit. The Philippines, you have that new guy in the Philippines who's killing ne'er-do-wells in the street and basically authorizing mass murder. I mean, this is going on all over the place. This is just par for the frickin' course at this point. So, let's go to the next slide.
Okay, maybe it's embarrassing to be a human then.
Yeah.
Let's hope the next slide will cheer us up.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, let's hope.
Next slide. So, founder of WikiLeaks.
Oh, he's so sad.
Founder of WikiLeaks, an indoor kitty, Julian Assange.
It's such a great shot. It really is.
He's like pining to chase birds out.
So,
or watching all the other little jackasses
outside.
All outside.
All the other informants are outside playing.
It looks like a scene from a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does.
Either Rear Window or Rear
Window. All right, so he turned on the charm last week. You'll remember that he leaked emails allegedly showing that the DNC favored Clinton over Sanders in the primary, thereby apparently confirming conspiracy theory that the Sanders people have been pushing for quite a while, that forces were aligned against Sanders, and I would just say it was popularity. If you read the emails and you read them in context, and you look at the conversations that the important emails are supposed to be part of, you can see that this isn't a battle plan for their campaign. This is a post-mortem. This is when Hillary, it's 12 days before Hillary actually seizes the nomination. It's clear what's going to happen, and they're talking about how to move on. But I haven't heard anybody report that. Maybe one or two opinion pieces, and that's it. But again, maybe it's my bias.
It's a non-story.
As far as I can tell, but it got Deborah Wasserman Schultz demoted, which is fine. I think a lot of people didn't like her anyway. But yeah. Anyway, following the murder of Seth Rich, a guy who's a DNC staffer in Washington, D.C., in what police say was a failed robbery attempt. Was he a
DNC staffer or a Hillary Clinton campaign staffer?
I thought he was DNC.
Okay.
But I could be wrong. But following what seems to be, and the police are saying, was a failed robbery attempt, the August journalism website whatdoesitmean.com claimed, citing an imaginary security memo from inside the Kremlin, that Rich was shot by, quote, a Clinton hit team.
How does one shock reporter get a hold of a memo from inside the Kremlin?
I don't know. I have my doubts about their sources.
Yeah.
So this is according to the rest of the internet, because Rich was working with the FBI or was about to blow the whistle on election fraud, or that old recycled chestnut that he was just about to testify against the Clintons in a court case. So following this, the vitamin D supplement poster boy Julian Assange jumped in and told Dutch TV, and this is a quote, whistleblowers go to significant efforts to get us material, and often very significant risks. As a 27-year-old, works for the DNC, was shot in the back, murdered just a few weeks ago for unknown reasons as he was walking down the street in Washington. The interviewer followed up and said, quote, that was just a robbery, I believe, wasn't it? And the WikiLeaks founder cryptically replied, no, there's no finding. I'm suggesting that our sources take risks. Ultimately, however, he wouldn't say that Rich was a source. Why? Because he's delightful. Anyway, WikiLeaks tweeted that they had a bounty on information about the murder. Soon thereafter, Trump's close advisor, Roger Stone, who is, as best I can tell from his Twitter feed, he's feral. He tweeted the following image. You bring that up. Right?
Too much to read.
Okay, there's a lot to read in that. It's not a great meme, but you don't have to worry about it. So it says Democratic staffer, blah, 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 blah.
Blah, blah.
He was shot. He wasn't going to discuss election fraud. He was shot late at night after election fraud discussing with the FBI hours, coming back from registering people to vote. UN official John Ash died as he was...
Suspiciously?
Well, you know, that means ever after having met a Clinton. He was being investigated, I believe himself, for I forget what it is, but he was actually the subject of whatever investigation. Victor Thorne, he committed suicide and is a whack-doodle conspiracy theorist and
he looks like that preacher that does those. Sorry, no, that's inflammatory. Sorry, go ahead.
That's fine. But yeah, no, he's a
Exception.
I think a Holocaust denier too. So when they say that he wrote books exposing the Clintons, he wrote unhinged lunacy stuff, right? And then the last person, Sean Lucas, said that he was the lead attorney in the anti-Clinton DNC fraud case. He actually was a process server. not a lead tourney of jack shit. So there's, and also if you want to be technical,
well, you did like Bernie Sanders, so
it took it wasn't a month, it was 6 weeks. So there's nothing about this that's right.
Well, so what does it found dead at home mean? I mean, and dead of a gunshot wound could mean he killed himself.
It's technically true, but misleading.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's ambiguous and lets you paint whatever you want onto that canvas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But some of those things aren't even technically true.
Yeah, a lot of this
true.
is crap.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know what though? I honestly, you think that of a vast right-wing conspiracy against the Clintons. I'm thinking that's looking kind of plausible at this point. You just have, crap being shoveled, but that's okay.
I didn't put it on the big screen.
I'll be getting there. Anyway, this is a
You mean
continuation.
a conspiracy theory, a conspiracy against the Clintons.
Yeah, against the
As
Clintons.
opposed to the Clintons doing conspiracies.
Right.
What they're claiming. Well, you want to get even more. You want to get even more meta. I can tell you an interesting thing about the Seth Rich story that happened on Wikipedia.
Okay.
Often when someone gets murdered and is in the news, somebody will try to write a Wikipedia article for them, and naturally that happens a lot. Often family members will do it to try to memorialize their unfortunate family member who was victimized by crime or whatever. And the problem is most murders are really not worthy of being put in an encyclopedia, right? Or deaths.
You heartless bastard, Tim.
Well, I'm sorry, but
children.
not everybody belongs in the damn encyclopedia. If you put
Just because they were murdered.
If you put
I
everyone who was ever
supposed to be
murdered
the sum
in there,
total of all knowledge.
Yeah, if you put everyone who's ever murdered in there, you'd have the Book of Kings.
there you go. There you go. So they have specific rules about it, and basically it says, the murder has to connect in some way to a real news story, and it shouldn't be the person's. There's various ways you can take the content and put it into another article, and but you don't want to make an article that's a biography of a person, and the only reason they're there is because they were murdered in an interesting way. So lo and behold, an article about Seth Rich appears the other day, on August 10th, I think. It was edited in one swath. A fully formed article was pasted in, already edited and formatted with footnotes and all that. Obviously the work of someone who knew what they were doing. And it was the very first edit made by a brand new account on Wikipedia.
That's not
that
suspicious
had
at all.
never edited before.
Was it Russian?
Well, here's the interesting thing. Is the second edit by the same account was to, how sometimes we'll trumpet that some skeptic got mentioned on the front page of Wikipedia?
Mm-hmm.
Where's that little box that says, "Did you know?" And we'll get, I don't know, Kendrick Fraser's article listed there or whatever. Well, you want to talk about arcane. There's an arcane procedure and an even more arcane set of rules about how you get something on there. And even if you know what you're doing in Wikipedia, that can take forever to figure it out and how to do it. This guy did it in this second edit that he did. He creates a DYK request for the Seth Rich murder article, which of course the DYK people are like, what, are you kidding? You're going to put this conspiracy theory on the front page of the encyclopedia? Are you insane? So of course other people immediately mark the article to be deleted. The guy comes in who created the article and starts arguing vehemently to keep it, and then all of a sudden these other editors who haven't been participating for years on end come in to back him up, basically sock puppets, and the whole thing is obviously a bunch of editors who are trying to conceal their identity of who they are. Now they might just be other Wikipedia editors who like conspiracy theories or hate Clinton or whatever, or it might be Julian Assange pounding away on a laptop in the Ecuadorian embassy.
Yeah.
Huh?
Or a hired group.
Or somebody he hired or whatever. But that war is they're still battling over whether to delete that article. But the powers that be on Wikipedia are very much oriented around deleting it until such time as they can prove some link to the DNC, because there's no real proof that this guy had anything to do with the leak.
Yep.
So there are so many smart people involved in editing and maintaining Wikipedia that it amazes me that people try to still put one over on them.
Oh yeah, yeah. And people immediately could tell what this guy was up to.
Yeah.
And that he was trying to conceal his identity. Whoever it is, he's trying to conceal his identity, and whoever it is, they're a very experienced Wikipedia editor. So like you said, yeah, it's either someone they hired who knows what they're doing, like a PR firm, or it's somebody who just doesn't want us to know who they are. So I it made me laugh because it's a meta conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy about writing a Wikipedia article about a conspiracy theory.
That's Inception.
Yeah, it's totally Inception.
Yeah, cool. All right, so the other another conspiracy theory that popped up was a suggestion by Trump that Hillary's emails, which may have been hacked because she had a private server, but I don't know if we've seen any evidence that they were in fact hacked, but that these possibly hacked emails led to the execution of an Iranian nuclear scientist. Do you bring up the next image?
Oh yeah.
I heard that one.
This one was, and this is the thing. He starts off with this: many people are saying.
Many people are
saying. Yeah.
Smart people
asking questions.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. This was so flimsy and so supremely unsourced. It led to a.
Wait a minute. Did the scientists help the U.S. because of Hillary Clinton's hacked emails? Because that's how I'm reading that.
Wow, yeah.
Many people are saying that
he's not a literary stylist.
No.
I mean, okay. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so this was so unsourced, so flimsy. It led to a many people are saying hashtag, if you could bring up the next image. So
La la la, I'm not listening to you.
yeah, an examination, and also there was a in the Washington Post there was an examination of some of these self-distancing qualifiers that he uses to throw wacky conspiracies out there without any evidence. So smart people are saying, or I've heard a lot of talk about, and that sort of qualifier. Like, I'm not saying that would be irresponsible, but some people are saying it. Yeah.
Some people have compared it to the way mobsters talk in like The Godfather and those movies.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not saying it would be bad for your health, but maybe you might not want to do that.
Maybe you might get lead poisoning. I'm just saying.
Exactly.
Things get broke, Colonel.
Things get broke. It's nice base you have here.
Actually, the sort of plausible deniability kind of thing.
Yeah. So, okay. One that came from the right this week is the suggestion that Hillary Clinton is too ill to be president.
She does look tired.
This one has been more mainstream and is getting repeated widely on Fox and the conservative news. And I even saw it, Newsweek, I think it was, focusing on it like it was a thing. And at the end, they said, well, her doctor actually said, no, it's not. And it was just kind of disingenuous, and I thought kind of scummy, but, whatever. She seemed fatigued. Corey Lewandowski in April, I think she had a cold or had a cough or something. It's not like she shakes a lot of hands in a day, so I don't know where she'd get sick. She must have permanent con crud.
Yeah,
you know?
I can't imagine dealing as many people as you'd have to as a politician.
She at least believes in vaccines, so you'd think she would at least have the flu shot, unlike every other freaking candidate.
Yeah.
So this meant that she was. They said a deep, persistent cough, and he said it sounded weird, which actually just means that she had caught coughing on screen in 2 consecutive days, I think is what that means.
GERD.
Yeah. More recently, though,
every other human.
Yeah.
At least once a year in their lives.
Well, it's like, you know, in movies, if everything's
That's right.
going great and the heroine goes,
Uh-oh,
She's dead.
cancer.
She's dead. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
That's
you
true.
know?
True. It's
Yeah.
true.
So that was funny, but people are now saying that she may have neurological problems. And I think that this one was inspired. Hold on. I think this one was inspired by. Bring up the next image.
it's up.
No, it's up. It's been up.
Next one.
Yeah.
No, the next one after that? This
Yes.
one? Woo! I love that.
Yeah, like
Is that what the
like
balloons?
something's wrong with her. Yeah, this is the balloon drop at the DNC, and it's
Yeah.
just like, you know,
The way they
are.
over exaggerated.
If you catch anyone at the right time on video, they look weird as hell.
Yep.
Yeah, that is funny though. Okay,
It's,
so
it's a great gif.
but since then, you know,
Or
the
is it a
conspiracy
GIF?
theories have been that she's suffering from neurological problems, and they've been reaching back to a fall that she took in 2012. She had a
my God.
fainting spell that was caused by a virus and dehydration. She fell. She hit her head. She had double vision for a couple of months, but everything resolved over time. I believe she wore corrective glasses for that. And nonetheless, Sean Hannity spent an entire episode analyzing still photos, showing selectively edited clips of tape, making up the reaction of journalists who were actually present. And he did this because he's only a little stupid and dishonest. Yeah, a little. A Secret Service member, if you could bring up the next image. You see him, the gentleman on the right, with something in his hand. That something is probably a flashlight. I guess it could be a radio, a walkie-talkie, but I think it's a flashlight. They interpreted this as a diazepam injector, which would be for an anti-seizure.
That's oddly specific.
I know, right? It's like, and they're saying like the little thing on his lapel is like it means he's a medic of some sort, which is not true. Like, just this is classic conspiracy theorizing. It's cherry picking.
Well, he does look like he's wired to the person behind him, which means he's a robot.
I want to know why Jeb Bush is behind him picking his ear.
That's true.
Right? So anyway.
But wait a minute. How does this prove that Paul is dead?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
So
I'm confused.
okay. So medical doctors who should know better made these ambivalent statements on the air when they really couldn't and shouldn't say anything ethically because they haven't done an exam.
Jeb Bush.
But then, literally, the most punchable person on the planet stepped up and offered his position. Bring up the next image. It's Pharma Bro Martin Strelli. He said, "quote I reviewed."
No one's ever going to see a picture of him other than that stupid smirk. Ever.
If you look at his timeline, he's like, "Do you hate me? I want to talk to you live." And you're just like, "You're a pathetic human being." Yeah. So anyway, he said, "I reviewed a number of videos, and I think Hillary Clinton has early onset Parkinson's disease. It appears she takes L-Dopa." Now, Steve Novella at the Skeptics Guide had a great takedown, but I would like to add to this that she's almost 70 years old. The average onset of Parkinson's is 60. The fact that he calls it early onset Parkinson's just demonstrates that it's just a bunch of medical words that he doesn't understand, right?
I think she has early onset puberty.
You're a very late case of SIDS. You know, so the most recent conspiracy theory that I've seen is the one that she's wearing a defibrillator.
Oh God!
If you could bring up the next image, and this has all the there's a little arrow pointing to her shoulder. She's speaking on a wireless mic that needs a transmitter. And that's probably attached to her bra strap or something because there's nowhere else for it. She doesn't have anywhere else to put it, and this is apparently what they do. If she was wearing something form-fitting, they might actually paste it on her thigh, tape it down on her inner thigh. It's just...
Well, I can't speak to what's under her dress because I don't care. But that microphone, the transmitter is probably a box sitting off somewhere.
That's what I would think too, because I
don't think she's got a transmitter on her. Those are the long transmitter mics. They're standalone. They have a battery in them. They're fine. But I mean,
what if it was?
Guessing that that's a defibrillator that she's carrying on is weirdly
not warranted by that little tiny bulge under her shirt, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing is that you can see images of her later on, the same day, and she clearly doesn't have it. She clearly doesn't have anything on her back. So this one too is
maybe she was wearing a vest because she's. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, this.
I don't know.
This is shades of George Bush has a wire leading to his ear. I don't know if you remember that one from way back in the day.
Well, he was
or Sarah Palin is kind of looking a little pregnant-ish in this picture.
Right.
Or not looking pregnant-ish, yeah.
Yeah. So, now the conspiracy theories this time around have not been limited to the right. I just don't have time to talk about the ones on the left. I don't have time to talk about Trump doing kind of like the ultimate shitty thing, which is try to undermine confidence in the elections. Which is really a rotten blow at the heart of democracy.
He's scary.
Well, you understand why he does that, though, right? It's basically hedging. It's because
totally to justify his colossal
justify
ego.
His loss and
right.
a landslide loss that he's most likely going to experience.
Yep.
It can't be his fault. This is just clear narcissism.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But when it comes to things like the degrees of Russian influence on Trump, that he won't release his tax returns because of his donations to NAMBLA, those types of things on the left. Oh, come on, that was funny.
I saw what you did there.
It was funny.
It was funny. Well, and it's silly
that was
because
part of the people are saying.
It was kind of that was part of the same thing.
Yeah.
Which is it's ridiculous because NAMBLA is not a nonprofit, and if you donate, it doesn't show up on your tax return.
Right.
Nothing. So,
You know this how?
Eve does my taxes.
Oh.
So I can tell you about his donations.
To NAMBLA, that's right, yeah. So, there are conspiracy theories. The other one is the source of the Russian hacking. And I don't know how reliable that is. And Tim, you had a conversation with Jim Lippert on Twitter about a week or so ago, I think, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of commercial companies that do forensic investigations of these types of hacks, and there were a couple companies that were actually hired by the DNC. Typically, if you do get hacked, you want some third party to come in and clean it up for you so that you can verify to your customers or your shareholders or whoever you're beholden to that you've made a good effort. And so you bring one of these companies in and they take your servers apart and figure it out. And these companies did an analysis and they linked the methods that were used to hack the DNC to what's called essentially a hacker group. When you observe hackers and you observe the results of hacks, you sort of end up knowing, oh, these are these guys, and these are these guys, and these are these guys. You sort of notice their modus operandi. You might not have any idea who they are.
Right.
You might know roughly what part of the world they're in. Maybe you might have some hints about what language they speak based on some strings or text that you might see in their communications or in the code. But really and truly, you do not know who they are, because if they're good, they will launder their connections, they will clean their code so that, and they will not communicate publicly. Well, anyway, these companies were saying that they were sure that these were the Russians, that it was state agencies, and in fact that there were two different Russian agencies that had hacked the DNC separately and didn't appear to know the other one was in there. Like one of them was, I forget which Russian agencies they are. One of them is the former KGB, and then there's some other intelligence agency. Like we have the NSA and the CIA and da-da-da-da-da. They have the same thing. They have multiple agencies that do similar things. But I argued that unless you're a governmental organization who has the kind of resources that the NSA and the CIA have to know what's going on behind the scenes, you can't possibly know that that's really
you can't rely on just the forensics.
Those companies are making an educated guess. And it's a good guess. And as it turned out, after I had that conversation with Lippard online, and I linked to an article where another kind of skeptical computer security person outlined his reasons for not believing it, I think one of our government agencies kind of weighed in and basically said that they had other evidence that indicated it probably was elements of the Russian government.
It was the FBI, wasn't it?
FBI or somebody, and I don't know if they publicly said it or if it was leaked to the press, but some information came out of our government that seemed to confirm what the company said. So it may be that the company was right, but my point is a lot of these companies get very high on their own diagnosis, and if you go back into my Twitter stream, there's a very good article that this guy wrote talking about how he's gone back and analyzed some of their reports and found cases where they admitted that they were dropping evidence out of their own report that contradicted their hypothesis. And they would make up some reason of why, well, we're going to ignore this set of evidence over here. And it's like, that's not how you do a skeptical investigation or something. You have to have
what's in their best interest
that explains all the evidence, not just the evidence you like. So,
as a business, it's always in their best interest to be confident in their results.
Yeah.
So,
well, the problem is there's no like, just like with pundits, there's no real punishment for these companies if they're wrong.
I just see like they say, well, it's the Russians, and then the KGB has a press release. Damn it, they got us.
Exactly. You're never going to get confirmation of what they're saying unless the government steps in.
Well, some of the stuff that they were looking at.
And if they're wrong. What they can be confident of is saying that this is a very sophisticated actor who really knew what he was doing, which is probably a state-sponsored actor, as opposed to random hackers in a Bulgarian basement who are just fucking around.
So
there are measurable differences between those kinds of levels of hacking. But I get very skeptical whenever you hear things in some of these reports where they say, oh, we found 3 Russian words inside an executable file. It's like, so what? Maybe the guy's brother is Russian, or maybe they hired a programmer who was Russian.
Downloaded something on the internet and then modified it to
people share their code.
The NSA tools that have been leaked.
Yeah.
Shit.
And if I for some reason was a state-sponsored actor who didn't want to be found out and maybe wanted to point a finger in the direction of Russia, I would be damn sure I would put some Russian strings in my
all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Well, the one that got me that I thought was really interesting was that they're noticing the hours that they were working in between, like 9 and 5 Russia time, like Moscow time, and like would they be that elaborate?
Well, a true state-sponsored actor might have people working 24/7, but they might also have a lot of like low-level hacker types who literally come in 9 to 5.
Yeah.
But again, if you don't want to be found out, it would be very easy to hire even a low-level employee and say, okay, you have to work from midnight to 6 a.m. People work graveyard shift even in shitty jobs. So.
Shitty international spying jobs.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much anything you can think of. A smart guy who's running or managing a team to do this is going to think of the same thing. So it's just a matter of how much effort they want to put into hiding themselves.
Oh.
Yep.
We may never. I mean, it's just interesting to see how often this type of hacking and espionage seems to be popping up in this election. And Julian Assange, his stock is real low in my book right now.
Oh yeah.
He's completely irresponsible, and it's not a matter of like just leaking the DNC stuff. It's releasing things without having an editor curate it. That's what journalists are supposed to do, right? Like put things in context. These were decontextualized emails that were released. The phone messages that were released were banal, but they only released the ones where people were criticizing the DNC for actually helping Bernie. I just find that really irresponsible and nasty.
Yeah, well, what was also nasty about it was they hadn't bothered to clean out of the data credit card numbers of donors.
Right.
Literally, there's information in the DNC dump from WikiLeaks that you could use to steal somebody's identity. And even worse than that, around the same time, they did a dump of what they claimed were emails of the head of Turkey. And it turned out not only were they not emails from the head of Turkey, they were inane, conversations off message boards in Turkey. But amongst that file dump was the voter registration records of nearly every female voter in Turkey.
Isn't that unbelievable?
And like personal information, phone numbers, their home addresses, all this stuff. Basically, you could steal the identity or go stalk any woman who had ever voted in Turkey. And it's incredible the danger they put people into.
What a surprise that they're irresponsible.
Yeah.
And people called them out on it on Twitter, and they denied it. And it's like, people who are experts on Turkey are like, we're looking at the files. What are you, right here? Nope. That you're an Erdogan apologist. And he was saying this to somebody who writes, New York Times op-eds about how Erdogan is an idiot.
Well, I just want to jump into this point because this conversation can go on for a long period of time, and I want to, anybody who wants to, who's watching, can get involved in this. Talk to these people. They're all on Twitter. They're all on Facebook, and keep the conversation going. But we have other people that have topics to cover tonight, so I'm going to.
All right, people can go.
Actually, Tim, who was talking, is next. So,
just keep it up, Tim.
Go ahead. Tim.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to be quick. I just wanted to point out one of the things that comes up a lot in skepticism is bad health studies, or in particular bad coverage of health studies. Oh, wine causes cancer. Oh, wine cures cancer. And then you go and look at the study, and it turns out it was this ridiculous, cell culture study or something in mice or whatever it is. And of course, we all know we've got people like David Gorski and Steve Novella and all the other bloggers, Harriet Hall at Science-Based Medicine. But even with all those folks and the many other great skeptic bloggers, there's only so many people out there to debunk the latest study.
And reporters don't seem to get in contact with them nearly enough.
Yeah. So an interesting tool came out a week or so ago from some folks in England, and it's specifically targeted at helping people who are a little bit interested in this and maybe have enough knowledge that they can read a study or at least look at the abstract of a study and understand certain aspects of it, and it will help guide you through analyzing it for yourself and deciding whether or not it's worth paying attention to what that study says. And I've got my first screenshot is the top page of the website. It has a very attractive modern design, and it's called Understanding Health Research. I think it's understandinghealthresearch.org is literally the URL. And the idea is very simple. It's just basically a series of questions and answers that it takes you through, and it just kind of leads you by the hand through the process of trying to figure out whether or not this is a study that really can be relied on. So it'll ask you things like, who funded the study? What was did they state their goal in the beginning of the study before they came up with their results, and da-da-da-da. When you click if you go to the next slide, here's an example of one of the questions. Has the paper been peer reviewed? And below off the screen there's text that explains what a peer review is and how you figure that out, and you can answer those questions. And it's basically, it'll lead you through, based on what you answer, what you should look at next. And it's a pretty neat little tool. It's not magic. You can't just feed a PDF in and it'll tell you, yeah, this is bullshit. It's not the magic Novellatron machine that we've all been hoping someone would build. But it's a neat little tool, and if you've ever wondered about a study and can't find a skeptic who has debunked it yet, you might give this a try. It's called understandinghealthresearch.org. It was built by a bunch of university folks in England on a grant from the Media Research Trust, which is a nonprofit over there, and I recommend it.
Cool.
Huh. Cool. Interesting. Awesome.
There you go.
Sweet. Short and sweet. So links to that stuff will be in the show notes.
Yeah.
I assume.
Yeah.
Eve is next.
Do we want to skip to Barb, because Barb's got a time? Or are we okay on time?
It's only 6 o'clock.
Do you mind, Eve? If we can.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, because she's got a time limit.
I can. Yeah. Okay. That's fine.
I gotta figure out how to do that in the
You
slides.
gotta figure out how to. Yeah. You
Let's
have
see.
to go forward in the slides.
Pay no attention to the slide box.
Bip. Okay, I'm ready.
There you go.
Do
okay. Okay. Well, somebody tagged me on Facebook. This is how I get most of my stories, because apparently BuzzFeed is now creating listicles and crap like that by crowdsourcing.
Oh
which
boy.
which we will find is not a good way to do it. So this was crowdsourcing on crazy odds, and
This is gonna be
there were
fun.
some like 13 or 20 or I don't know, something like that. A large number of memes that are just plain stupid, the majority of them. So I picked out just a few, because I don't want to spend too much time talking about these, but I could go on and on.
Yeah.
I kind of picked out my favorites, or least favorites, and I'll just talk about most of them. I picked out ones that cover different problems.
Okay. Cool.
Let me talk about different problems. Okay, so the first one is a really simple one. This is a roulette wheel, and it says the odds of returning to a meaningful quality of life 3 months after getting CPR treatment is about 3%. That's only slightly higher. Actually, I can't see the bottom of it because you people are in the way.
It's only slightly better than picking the correct number on a single roulette spin.
Yeah. Okay. So
I'm skeptical.
I'm actually going to. I didn't do a lot of calculation here. I assumed that some of their statistics are correct. I doubt that a lot of these are correct, but I'm going to assume that they are, because those weren't the biggest problems. They were by far the least biggest problem. The biggest problem with this one is the quality of life.
Oh yeah.
Phrase.
Yeah, what does that even mean?
life.
Meaningful quality of life.
It's not meaningful at all. I mean, the meaningful quality of life, that phrase or that term, is not meaningful. I'm sure that a large proportion of people who get CPR treatment die, so that number doesn't surprise me at all. But this concept of meaningful quality of life, what the hell does that mean? Nothing.
And where does that statistic come from? Because they're talking about an odds of return. And
Well, you have to define that term before you can come up with the statistics. So, yeah, most of these did not have sources of the statistics, so it just didn't make any sense. Oh, I'm sorry, this was not BuzzFeed, this was Cracked. Cracked.com.
Correct.
Which, it really bugs me, because when they have writers, Cracked actually has some really good, funny,
they've done some good stuff.
really quality stories. I mean, they've really done their research, and it's a lot of their stuff about science and so forth. A lot of their skeptical stuff is actually really good. I mean, they have a good track record. So this is really disturbing. So the next one, if you want to go to the next slide. Okay. Are you afraid of being one of the victims in a terror attack? Chill. You are 1,860 times more likely to be hit by a world-ending asteroid than getting bombed by a terrorist.
I think that number is way low.
I'm just flabbergasted. I don't know where they got the numbers from. I'm going to say, let's say the odds of being hit by an asteroid. But I think that the 1 in 5,000. Yeah, they have some numbers. They've got
odds of dying in a terror attack is 1 in 9.3 million. Odds of Earth being hit by an asteroid. Odds of Earth being hit by a huge asteroid.
Okay, so there are serious problems with
1 in 5,000.
For one thing, they're comparing the odds of dying in a terror attack. I'm assuming they're comparing at any point in your life. Because you have to define a period of time, and let's say that's correct. Let's say that's even correct. The odds of Earth getting hit by a huge asteroid might be 1 in 5,000, but the Earth is a hell of a lot.
I don't think so.
But the Earth is a hell of a lot older than we are, and it's going to go on long after we. I mean, when are they saying in the next 50 years?
Well,
I don't think it's 1 in 5,000 in the next 50 years.
If it was the odds of the Earth being hit by an object, I might believe 1 in 5,000.
Oh no! I mean, we get hit by stuff all the time, so I don't.
But odds of being hit by a huge.
What's huge? Well, what does huge mean, and how? I know how long are they talking about? But Brian, they could be that number could be at any time. That could be somebody calculated at any time before the Earth. You know, it's the problem. The problem is that's not your odds. Those are not your odds of dying, of being hit by a world-ending asteroid. Those are nowhere near your odds of being hit by an asteroid.
Well, I mean, if you were to compare these apples to apples, if this was the odds of the Earth being hit by a huge asteroid, which is what it says at the bottom.
Well, let's even assume it's in your lifetime. It's
on Earth.
Exactly. They're not. They don't match. They don't match at all.
Yeah.
Okay. On to the next one.
Yep. These are good.
Monopoly. The chances of landing on any of the 5 most valuable properties in Monopoly on your first turn is 1.15%.
What?
I'm going to
assume... On your
assume,
first turn, which we're starting on the other side of the board.
I'm going to assume that that's correct. I didn't do...
I would think it's lower because you can't roll that high.
You can't roll that high. That's bullshit. There's no chance.
Don't you? Isn't there a rule like in Monopoly where if you roll a 6, you get to go again, or there's
you can roll doubles and
Let's
okay. So it's low, but it's not.
Okay, but let's assume for the sake of argument that this is correct. Okay. It says when you manage to do it, you could start a new game every 2 hours and play nonstop for half a week before expecting to have it happen again. No. That's not correct. First of all, the first part of that, when you manage to do it, it doesn't matter whether you've done it or not. The odds do not change. Every time you start a new game, you have the exact same odds of landing on one of those 5. Yeah. Now, if you're talking about, when we talk about expected values, we're talking about your expectation of it happening during a set of trials.
Yeah.
Okay? So it doesn't matter whether you've done it before, and it doesn't mean you would not expect it to happen again for a certain number of trials. It means that is the odds for every single trial. So what it should say is you could start a new game every 2 hours and play nonstop for a week and a half. And during that week and a half, you would expect to land in one of those things once. That's the odds. That's how it works. That's your expectation. It does not mean that you wouldn't do it 5 times, that you wouldn't do it every time. Yeah. It does not mean that you would not land on those for 2.5 weeks and then suddenly you would land on them again. That's not how this works. Every trial is independent of every other trial. You have the exact same odds at every single trial. Your expected value is during a set of trials, you expect to hit it a certain number of times.
I just wanted to point out that Mark Price on Twitter just said that the real issue is that a fight would have broken out over the game the first 2 hours.
The chance of you dying while trying to prove this.
It of course does not mean that you have to play the same opponent every time either. So you could lower the chances of getting into a fight by maybe having a new opponent every time. Fresh horses and all.
Yep.
So this is confusing. People do this all the time with it's actually it's a version of gambler's fallacy where people will not sit down to a slot machine that has just paid out a jackpot because they don't think that it's due to hit. They will sit at one that hasn't hit for a while because they think it's due to hit. And the truth of the matter is that slot machines you have the same odds of hitting the jackpot right after it's been hit than you did before it was hit, and it just doesn't work this way. So we have a very difficult time understanding dependent odds and independent odds.
If only there were a website to explain this issue to people.
If only, yeah. Using real world example.
Crazy.
Right, that's a great idea. Somebody should build that website.
Somebody should do that.
Yes.
Okay, so the next one, I have a couple more of these.
Sharks.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite ones. I love the attack by shark ones because there's just some really fun ones that people have done, and they always pop up on local news.
Just to compare this, the chances of me being attacked by a shark is extremely low because I don't swim in the ocean.
Well, that's bringing up one of my points. So this one says you have a 1 in 11.5 million chance of being attacked by a shark, which is still more likely than winning the Powerball at 1 in 175 million. There are numerous people who still refuse to swim in the ocean, and yet they will play the lottery. That's because they're not stupid like the person who made this meme. If you never swim in the ocean, your chances of getting bitten by a shark or attacked by a shark are 0, unless, of course, Sharknado.
And shark.
And then all bets are off.
Always carry a chainsaw.
Anagram.
Yeah. Then there's I'm sorry, I did forget about land shark. And then of course, if you live long enough to see sharks evolve legs and lungs, then all bets are off too. Which is still more likely than winning the Powerball. That 1 in 175 million is the chance of winning the Powerball buying one ticket in one draw. So you actually have as many chances in 175 million as tickets you buy in that draw, and you can play over and over and over and over again. And if you never play, guess what? Your chances of winning are 0. So if you never play and you never swim in the ocean, then your chances of either are 0. The point being here, you have some control over this, and they don't understand odds.
And if I never play Powerball, I won't get attacked by a shark?
Probably.
Yes.
Probably, yes.
Probably.
Yes.
Probably. So there you go. Okay, so the next one...
Sharks love Powerball.
Okay, the odds of this, I love this one. The odds of dating a supermodel are
How
1 in
is that remotely
88,000.
true?
Odds, let me get. The odds of getting a royal flush in poker are 1 in 649,739. You are 7 times more likely to date a supermodel than getting a royal flush.
Even the supermodels look skeptical of that.
No sense whatsoever.
I don't know where the odds of dating a supermodel came from. I guess maybe 88,000 people, or 1 in 88,000 people today is dating one. I have no idea how they could possibly
times
calculate
more
that.
men than there are supermodels.
You have to define the word supermodel, and you have to define dating, and then you have to count the. I don't know. But I know that your odds of let's say your odds of ever dating it's your odds of
My
ever
odds?
dating a supermodel. Any one person's odds of ever dating a supermodel. Let's just assume that's true. You're now comparing it to getting a royal flush in one hand. The more hands you play,
Oh yeah.
the more chances you have of getting a royal flush. So if you are a professional poker player, or even
so
somebody
the
who
more
just does
dates
it on
you
the
go on.
weekends, you're gonna get some royal flushes. But you're
The more
probably
dates.
never, ever
How
going
many
to
dates do I have to
date
go
a
on before I can
supermodel.
get a supermodel?
No, that's you don't understand, Ryan. Every time you go out on a date, it's a new situation. The odds are exactly the same every time. Come on.
That
try to
she's
keep
going
up.
to be a supermodel. I would hope you're not dating women that young, Brian.
I am not.
And it depends.
I don't want one anyway. I would rather
like dating roulette. Occasionally a supermodel comes up. I don't know.
I've had a few royal flushes in my life.
Sure.
I'm
had a few
probably
supermodels.
never going to
What
get
can
a
I say?
I've had a few royal flushes myself.
but I've never dated a supermodel, and I probably never, ever will. It's pretty unlikely, especially since I'm married and not interested in women, and men apparently can't be supermodels in our society because we have some.
Oh man.
Didn't know that.
I gotta.
I was
I don't know.
majoring
Anyway.
in supermodeling at Trump University. God damn it.
Life goals.
Well, that was my contribution for this evening.
That was pretty good.
I'm going to
Thanks.
stick around for another 10 minutes, and then I'll say sayonara without saying sayonara. Well, I'll say sayonara.
I'm all queued up for Eve's slides because I felt bad skipping her, but we just needed
I'm
to.
sorry.
No, it's cool.
And this way she doesn't have to rush.
Yep, she has all the time in the world.
All right. Well, the Olympics will be. I have to get it done before the Olympics are over. The Olympics will be drawing to a close in a few days, and unsurprisingly, it turns out the Olympics are a hotbed of woo. If you can bring up the first slide, which is the word woo spelled with the Olympic word.
That's nice. That's good. I like that.
Bob didn't believe that was going to work.
Awesome.
That's good. That's good.
This year, though, and there has been a lot of woo, but one particular type just stood out that viewers quickly noticed something weirder than kinesio tape on the bodies of Olympians. If you can bring up the next slide, this is a picture of U.S. swimmer Michael Phelps.
Some of them
Oh, sorry.
Wow.
That's actually the wrong picture.
some of them are still wearing the kinesio tape.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That says USA on it.
Or it's skin colored now. This year.
Yeah, some of them had skin
It's
color.
flesh colored.
Some of the volleyball players had kinesio tape in the shape of a giant cat sphincter. Anyway.
You're just going to leave that there?
Yeah.
Yes, please leave that there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
We've been going on about the cat sphincter for weeks, guys.
this is a giant asterisk. This is the real picture of Michael Phelps, and I think you can understand my confusion. And it wasn't just Phelps. He was the most prominent. And, you know, he has won a lot of medals, so it works. But other swimmers were covered with...
He ever won a medal without it.
Other swimmers were covered with
No, I don't think he had
circles.
those last year.
No,
Yeah,
not the
4 years
last
ago.
Olympics, yeah. Some male gymnasts, if you can bring up the next slide.
That's
And
a
those circles helped the men come in 5th in the team competition. So there you go.
Hmm.
And apparently, by the way, the gymnasts were doing it to each other, cupping each other.
Team I.
Instead of doing a professional. It was mostly American athletes who were sporting the dots, but in 2008 at the Beijing Olympics, a Chinese swimmer, if you can bring up the next slide, had a lovely collection.
Wow.
And this
That
year,
doesn't look like it feels good at all.
yeah, and this year, a member of the Brazil diving team was also sporting the fashion bruises. You could bring up the next slide.
I don't think that works.
Yeah. Anyway, it's not just athletes. Celebrities also like circular bruises. Gwyneth Paltrow, if you bring up the next slide, she was wearing bruises as early as 2004. Jennifer Aniston and Justin Bieber, next slide, and others, and plus the cross. So he's so covered. And others have been giving cupping a whirl. Now, of course, Paltrow's inclusion on the list of early adopters pretty much guarantees that the trend is bullshit. This is the woman, after all, who promoted vagina steam cleaning.
Hmm.
So, yeah. And as we all know by now, the circles come from cupping. Cups are placed on the skin, and suction is created either through heat or by using a pump, drawing flesh up into the pump. Here, in the next slide, we see a diaper-clad Michael Phelps getting cupped. And he posted that himself, so he was proud of that.
Oh, God. That's like, wow, too much information.
Yeah.
And she is too happy.
Yeah.
She is enjoying this way too much.
I am going to suck your butt.
No.
I'm tweeting that. Anyway, there is also wet cupping, or hijama, which is in which the
Do we
skin
have to see this?
Huh?
Do we have to see this?
No, you don't. In which the skin is pierced or cut before the cup is applied. So it combines all the benefits of regular cupping and bleeding. Cupping, both wet and dry, is an ancient and nearly universal practice. A lot of people have said, well, it's an ancient Chinese traditional medicine. And it is, but not exclusively Chinese. The ancient Egyptians seem to have used cupping. Hippocrates used cupping. The Prophet Muhammad was said to have used and approved of cupping. So it became very popular among Muslim doctors. And Muslim doctors were both influential and in many ways actually quite advanced during the Middle Ages and early modern period in certain other aspects. So consequently, what cupping spread into Europe, and what cupping was one of the 3 common forms of bleeding in Western Europe during the Middle Ages, the other being cutting a vein and leeches.
Do we have to keep staring at his ass?
In the next slide,
there you go.
The next slide.
Hey, look, boobies.
Yeah. Exactly. It looks like there's extra boobies, but in fact,
no, just
a
cups.
female practitioner is cupping a woman here. And I found what looks like the same woman from the same manuscript cupping a man. The next slide comes from late 17th century, from a medical textbook.
Oh, Jesus.
Somebody else's butt.
Yeah.
Wow.
And in the film dangerous
What
liaisons.
is in the cup and the floor? There's like a squid or something in there.
I don't know. I
What?
can't really see it.
All the dangerous
There's
toxins
like
were
there's
sucked
like a
out.
cup on the floor. There's a big ball which
Yeah,
looks
like,
just like the
can't
ones
see it,
that are
we
on.
can't see it.
really.
Yeah, it's hard for us to see
Yeah.
because of the.
Just have the description then. Yeah. It's disgusting.
In the film Dangerous Liaisons, which is centering the 18th century, Michelle Pfeiffer's character gets cupped during her final illness.
Yep.
So how cupping works and what it does depends on who you ask. From the traditional Chinese point of view, it has something to do with energy or qi or whatever.
They always do.
Yeah. From the medieval point of view, it removes toxins and balances the humors. Explanations given in the last 2 weeks have echoed and combined both those points of view and added others. So, for instance, it helps circulate the blood and promote healing of muscles. And it helps circulate the blood, apparently, by breaking capillaries and allowing blood to pool and then clot on the skin, which isn't exactly the same thing as circulation. But it's close, except it's not, really.
I think it might be close to the opposite.
Yeah. It's the same thing in an opposite sort of way.
Opposite day.
Yeah. Or it does something else to the muscles. It's like an intense massage.
Yeah, someone I heard was that it's not stretching a muscle like, compressing it like a massage. It's pulling it in another direction.
Yeah. And
So
sometimes,
the fuck what?
sometimes the cup is slid over the skin before it's
So
removed.
it sucks.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Now, the vast number of explanations about how it works should perhaps make us suspicious.
Do we have to keep looking at this guy's butt too?
I'm not looking
Yes,
at his butt. You want to look at his butt?
You can look at his butt as much
You
as you
can
want.
look somewhere else, Bob.
Yeah. But anyway, this perhaps should make us suspicious about whether it actually does work at all. Edzard Ernst, David Gorski, Harriet Hall, Mark Crislip, and others, not fans. Cupping may provide placebo effects, psychological effects, or a counter-irritation effect, which is, when you have an owie, getting another owie may distract you from the first owie. There's been no well-run double-blind test that has shown any positive effect. Because, first of all, how do you blind such a test?
I have a friend on Facebook who came up with an interesting way of blinding it, but like doing it under numbing the skin first,
so they can't tell.
but so you have a proper control. But it's just this is a really, really difficult one.
It'd be super unethical too because there's no plausible benefit. And
even if you numb the skin, I mean, eventually you can see whether if you've been cupped or not.
And don't the benefits
not if you cover it up.
Aren't the proposed benefits supposed to be not immediate? They're supposed to be like over a period of time, I guess.
Yeah.
So
then you could cover it up.
So I guess you cover
You
it.
have to cover it up too.
Yeah, so
it would be very, very, very difficult.
Yeah.
One of those cones, but it would have to be opaque, so you couldn't see yourself when you had.
I just want to see a swimmer in a cone. Cone of shame.
Not
They
aerodynamic.
would so totally drown.
Michael Phelps showing up to a press conference in Baltimore after winning all his gold medals with a cone of shame. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
No, he just has the hickeys of shame.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of, I guess it kind of works.
Now, for the most part, cupping is usually pretty harmless. However, when heat is applied, there's always a possibility that the heat will be excessive or that exposure to the heat will last too long. Wet cupping is problematic because, well, it's bleeding, and there are dangers whenever the skin is cut or pierced. And very rarely, cupping can go badly wrong if you bring up the next slide. That's very wrong.
I'm not going to put this up very long.
Yeah, those are burns or holes that go all the way through the skin. this seems to have been from wet cupping.
So what's the harm?
Oh yeah.
That. Yeah. Oh, Orak even
Malpractice, I
used
guess,
"What's
which
the
is-
harm" in the title of his post on it.
Okay, gotta skip out, guys. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye. Thanks, Barb. See you later.
It's like he
And-
fought with a giant squid.
Yeah. And Orak suggests these are not thermal burns, but rather burns that result from repeatedly applying suction to broken skin, which was done, like, I think, every day for a long period of time. The man also, aside from the horrible wounds we see there, suffered from sepsis as a result. I mean, he had a high fever. Very nasty.
Yeah, that looks like there's something else going on there.
You can see at the top where they would plug him into the Matrix.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
And again, this is a rare effect.
Related malfunction.
A rare effect, and both the patient and the practitioner seem to have been careless and irresponsible.
Yeah, and this picture's been pushed around the internet a lot lately because of the exposure the story has been getting.
Mm-hmm.
Is this? Do you know if this picture's real? Because
I believe it is. Yeah.
It's from a case. It's actually from a case report, as I understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, and there is detailed information of the series of events that led to this and his treatment.
Yeah, I mean that seems like a carnival of errors that all led up to this. It's pretty serious.
Yeah.
Again, that's not one treatment. That's
right.
Yeah.
There's scar tissue in there, and
and having the cups applied to the exact same place over and over and over and over again. Right. So that's nasty.
Nasty.
What's really galling about, as a result of the cupping trend, is all the puff pieces that have materialized.
Yeah.
These may vaguely mention that some are skeptical, but they largely promote a worthless, potentially dangerous practice.
Yeah.
NBC, particularly since they're covering the Olympics in this country, have been, and they're not going to say, and our great American athletes are idiots.
Yeah.
The BBC did a puff piece, the New York Times, and many others have all run credulous stories about cupping. A HuffPo post by Anna Almendrala is a masterpiece of Weasley language, which we will not link to in the show notes. Under the section headed, "What studies have found," she says, quote, "Researchers at the University of Western Sydney's Centre for Complementary Medicine Research found in 2012 that cupping, in combination with other traditional Chinese medicines or pharmaceutical medicines, appeared to be more effective at treating things like," and this is the best part, "acne, facial paralysis, and herpes zoster than other traditional or pharmaceutical treatments alone." Herpes zoster is shingles.
Yeah.
Which just sounds like a catastrophically bad idea to cup someone with shingles.
Oh my God.
This post also mentions
It's so painful.
If they've had chicken pox already, I guess it's not that big of a risk.
Maybe, but it just seems to me that would be.
Or maybe.
First of all,
if you've had chicken pox, then you can get shingles.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, no.
But just horribly painful. Anytime if there are blisters on the skin, cupping would seem to be a really bad idea.
Especially
although
when you
shingles
have
is
this
totally
inflamed nerves that
the
the virus lives in. That's just. It's just the most painful, seeping, nasty disgustingness that I can think of a lot.
So to think of Bob's face when he was thinking of that, and that's how bad it is.
Well, I think the same post mentions treating migraines with cupping. And I've had a migraine for like 24 hours right now. If someone tries to cup me, I will murder you to death. I may do it by drowning you with vomit, but I somehow will murder you to death if you come near me with cups.
I think that was issued towards a particular person.
Yep. Cup you back with shingles.
Yeah.
I will cup you back with shingles.
Aside from the national stories like NBC, BBC, a story on our local news, an NBC affiliate, which is, and I shame you, NBC 10 Philadelphia, was also absolutely horrifying. The theme was something like, Michael Phelps swears by cupping, and local doctors agree. The local doctors was one guy. His name is Victor Tsan. He describes himself on his website as a medical doctor, certified hypnotherapist, homeopath, acupuncturist, and Reiki master.
Wow.
He got a medical degree in 1976 from Moldova University of Medicine and Pharmacy.
Of course he did.
But I tried to find if he was actually licensed to practice medicine in this country or in Pennsylvania,
so.
And he seems not to be.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me.
He practices acupuncture, homeopathy, cupping, wet cupping, Reiki, iridology, hypnotherapy, neuro-linguistic programming, and more.
Yay.
Fill out your entire Woo bingo card with this one.
I know, jeez.
He treats
Does he gaze too?
Is he gay?
Probably. He treats absolutely everything, including real illnesses like asthma and multiple sclerosis. There's also mention of cancer on the website. It's really horrifying. He also designed and developed what he calls the stomach mind band to treat obesity, which is like lap band surgery, except nothing.
Hold on. Surgery?
It's not surgery. It's like that's why it's the stomach mind band.
Oh.
Hypnosis.
So
you know what? I went to a psychic. It was a stall that a psychic had at the health fair on our campus, and she was like, "And I have the hypno band that I could give you." And I was like, first of all, fuck you. Secondly, that was a cold read, I'm guessing. I don't know where she got the idea that I was overweight.
It doesn't make sense to me either.
That Dr. San himself appears to be extremely overweight.
Well,
Hey, shame a brother for. Wait a minute.
Oh yeah.
He eats well on all that sweet Reiki money.
Yeah. So yeah, cupping also
Reiki money.
Has, as most science-based medical doctors do, his website is full of anecdotes from satisfied patients, many of which have the same interesting writing style as Dr. Sam.
Sweet Reiki money is my ska band from
there you go.
From Arizona.
So yeah, cupping is a stupid fad, but it's a stupid fad with some potentially dangerous effects. But what's worse though is the media mindlessly jumping on the bandwagon and simultaneously impelling the bandwagon forward and promoting stupid shit.
Yeah.
There have been some skeptical pieces in the Atlantic and Forbes, for instance, but they've been too few and too far between, and way too many credulous pieces.
Yeah, that's true. And oh my God, we've gone
really late.
If you count the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
We're almost at 2 hours. But we good talk, good interaction online. Thanks for those stories and people. There's no robots this week, although there is one thing I want to mention. If you go back on my Twitter feed, there's an article, a link to an article. If you want to know what I do for my day job, there's a pretty good NASA article that was put out about the asteroid rendezvous mission. It's some technology we're working on to potentially catch rocks before they hit us. That's the big idea. But some of the robots we're using are involved in that. So go look at that. I'll actually put it in the show notes as well.
How does that affect the that thing from Cracked about the likelihood of asteroids hitting us? Sorry, never mind.
Considering their math is probably not right. I got nothing. The robots will probably make sure that they don't get hit by rocks. Now, we are SOL, I think. But there you go. Let's wrap the show up because we've gone so long. Thanks everybody for participating. Did anybody get the trivia question? I think someone chimed in before Mark tweeted it.
Mark Price.
Wait. Mark Price is first?
No, just hang on. I'm telling you a story here. Mark Price guessed incorrectly, but I thought his guess was interesting. He guessed it was Playgirl magazine.
I thought it was a joke.
But the winner who got it right very, very quickly was virtual skeptic emerita Sharon Hill. Who correctly identified that prior to being the editor of Skeptical Inquirer, Kendrick Frazier was the editor of Science News.
Yay.
Which was I think it's still published, but anyway, for years, your weekly news of new developments in all fields of science was a weekly magazine called Science News.
Way to go, and that would be something,
many years.
That would be something she would know right away. So.
Yep.
Absolutely. As far as guesses on the video behind me, which I hope nobody can read because it's finished and actually
it's gone back to
the whole text guide thing going on there. The movie that was playing behind me, let's see here. I think Nathan Miller guessed The Prestige, which was the other movie that was out the same year about magicians. This one was not The Prestige. This was The Illusionist, which was Ed Norton from my hometown, and it was actually, I think, a better movie. Some examples of real classic magician craft in it, although they use special effects to make it much more freaky. There's at least one Pepper's Ghost in there. So decent movie and close enough. I'll give you credit, at least partial credit. Nathan.
You get half of nothing.
Yeah. Nothing. Any announcements this week? Anyone?
Bob had.
I gotta switch over. Let's see here. Bob was one of the contributors to Ben Radford's Uno Junto blog about art's obligation to the truth, this is all like beyond me.
No.
Do you want to say anything about this?
What happens is that every month or so, Ben posts a prompt essay and asks people to respond. This is the second one I've done. Eve, I think you've done 2 as well, right?
By 2, if you mean 1, yes.
Okay. Yeah. So
I declined one.
1 plus or minus 1.
Yeah. And I may have something up on the Insight blog.
But you don't yet. We'll
it'll
talk
probably
about it
so soon. Okay.
I just got an email from Daniel saying maybe tomorrow if I can send him a headshot.
Yeah.
You send him that grumpy face.
Yeah.
No, not the Trump kissy face, which is still haunting me. Okay, then. Then we've got book time.
Oh, crap.
Who wants to do book stuff?
I got nothing.
You got nothing? Bob?
Yeah. Agents of the Freedmen's Bureau were not alone in offering a grim prognosis for poor whites. Journalists from major newspapers headed south, sending back regular dispatches and publishing monographs for curious northern readers. Prominent articles appeared in the Atlantic Monthly, Putnam's Magazine, and Harper's New Monthly magazine. The New York Times published a series of essays on the subject. In 1866, its anonymous correspondent authored a scathing expose of white poverty. accompanied by the innocuous title From the South, Southern Journeyings and Jottings.
Jobbings. Who's next? Eve, ready?
A chronosaur and an elasmosaur engage in battle near the Ark. This could very well have taken place, since the Lord made no provision for sea creatures aboard the Ark. This opening of the fountain of the deep, possibly volcanic thermal vents, could have
She lost it.
This is hard to read.
superheated large areas of the sea or raised acidity levels in large areas of the ocean to poisonous levels. I'll stop there.
Oh my god.
Because it might get stupid.
Tim? Tim.
It might get stupid.
Ready, Tim?
Oh, I literally have nothing. We have all our books were packed up while we were doing some renovations, so I've got nothing handy. Sorry.
Okay. Let me jump in with mine then. In the late 1700s, Edward Jenner, a physician working in southern England, made the world's first vaccine. Jenner found that he could protect people from smallpox, a disease that has claimed 500 million victims, by injecting them with cowpox, a related virus. 100 years passed. In the late 1800s, Louis Pasteur, a chemist working in Paris, made the world's second vaccine. Pasteur's vaccine, made by drying spinal cords from infected rabbits, prevented the single most deadly infection of man, rabies. Only one person has ever survived rabies without receiving a rabies vaccine. Wow. Bob, what's your book?
My book is White Trash, the 400-Year Untold History of Class in America by Nancy Eisenberg, which is making the rounds right now and looks pretty good.
Wow. Wow.
Mine doesn't look very good. It's Claws, Jaws, and Dinosaurs by William J. Gibbons and renowned felon, Dr. Kent Hovind. And this is the picture for which that is a caption.
Wow.
Nice.
That is the...
That's so painful.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Tim? Nothing?
My book was nothing.
Mine was...
well, Tim read Trump's tax returns.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's he did. Bam. Mine is a book called Vaccinated, One Man's Quest to Defeat the World's Deadliest Diseases by someone we should all know, Paul Offit, M.D. This is the cover.
Yeah.
So, I've only just started getting into it, but it's...
He's an easy read. He's fun.
Yeah. He was like one of the first people I met at a Skeptical event. It was the first Nexus.
Yeah.
And he was a great public speaker.
He
very
gave
passionate about his topic. So
a fantastic, lucid talk at the first. It's not Skepticon. What's it called? Psychon. First Psychon. It's amazing.
Okay then. Are we done? Do we have any questions to respond to? Do we? I need to find the show notes so I can read this stuff. But at least
you had
after,
2 hours.
Yeah, at least after we got the initial technical issues, I'm hoping that when we finally get to the point where we have to use YouTube, it's not going to be the hell we had when we first started the show. But anybody who stuck with us, thank you very much. In response, here is the logo and the music. And it's loud still. Wow. Purple Skeptics is an independent production of What's the Harm.net Skeptical Humanities, myself, Isaac James Everywhere, and Delta News. Our logo was designed by Thurman at thurmannew.com, and our theme music is by Music Hint and used with permission. Another notch. Thank you all for watching.